I actually grew up in the church, loved the Lord. I've spent most of my life serving him. And it wasn't until I was later in my mid 30 years that I was really battling with depression. I was always really good at kind of managing my own depression. I was good at hiding it, meaning like most people would have never assumed that I had that as part of my life, as part of my walk, that I knew the Lord, I loved the Lord, I served the Lord, and that's what outwardly I was able to express. And then I reached a point in my life where I wasn't able to manage that anymore. I was no longer able to hide the fact that depression was something that was part of me, and it was really something that I had accepted. And I had a really good friend of mine speak a word to me, and the word was that God had something better for me. I was kind of like, but I'm okay. Like, this is the way God made me. Like, so I was really just content to be sitting in something that wasn't mine, something that the Lord didn't want for me. If I want something, I go after it. So once I decided that I was going to be on this healing journey, is what I used to call it, I was quick to just any and every opportunity, just go for it. Like if there was a service, I was up front praying. If there was a event to go through, there I was, like, you know, like somebody knock me on the forehead and like lay me on the ground and let the Lord like do his thing. And time after time after time, I would leave disappointed that what I was asking the Lord for in that moment was not an answered prayer for me at that time. And then there was an occasion where I was invited to go along as just like a youth leader for an event. And miraculously, in a service, I was healed. I was healed from depression instantly and miraculously. At the time, of course, I was scared as well to just start proclaiming that off the bat. But it was a very specific healing that I received that night, a very specific sensation of like heat that ran through my body, the experience of the Holy Spirit being just indwelling and strong in me that night. And I knew instantly that the Lord had moved. And I like to think that the Lord needs to surprise me. He needs to surprise me, because sometimes when I want something personally so bad for myself, that I can strive really hard to get it. And I think that the Lord wants to get my attention, and he wants to do things in his way, in his timing. There's just been many other times just in my walk with the Lord where he's met me in places that I didn't expect him to meet me at. And he's done things for me emotionally and physically. A few months ago at Revive, there was a word spoken during the worship service that night that somebody in the worship service that evening had been experiencing some neck pain. And chronic neck pain is something that I've dealt with for a long time. At different times in my life, I've sought prayer. And on this particular evening, I remember sitting in my chair and really just, I was overcome with emotion. And my emotion was that I really didn't need God to heal me in order for me to worship him. As I sat there with that thought for a while, until I finally got brave enough to move, is when God speaks a word, it's an open opportunity, and sometimes that open opportunity we have to respond to. I reluctantly went to the front that evening and told the prayer partners right away that I wasn't sure if the word was for me, but that nonetheless that I was there, and they prayed with me, were very gracious to do so. And told me that God has something for me. And so we prayed, and I went back to my seat, and in just kind of the quiet and stillness, I felt the Lord kind of whisper to me, or to my heart, that this is my provision for you. I just kind of held on to that word, and I was like, okay, whether or not I receive healing from this pain or not, like, I'm going to receive this word that the Lord has spoken, and I'm going to accept, his provision for me. And so over the course of the next couple of days, it makes you nervous, because you're like, am I healed? Am I not healed? You're trying to not overplay it. You're trying to not be falsely putting on God something that he hasn't done or doesn't plan to do. And as I accepted his provision for me over the next couple of days and over the next couple of weeks, I noticed that my pain had immensely decreased. So I know that I'm not walking this alone, that the Lord is always with me. The Lord has been very good and close to me with the death of my best friend from cancer, and among many, many other ways in my life. And so I just declare that he's good, and his timing is good. And that's my testimony.